What's up, my favorite bros? Maine-iac here with another Power Rankings video for Week 16 of the NFL season. Just 2 more weeks to go until the playoffs. It has been some insane football. I think this is going to be the most moves that you will see until the end of the year. Now let's get started. At number 32, we have the Cleveland Browns showing some improvement on offense. They stay close, but then they fall apart at the end of the games. No wins, nothing else for the bottom. Then at 31, we have the Indianapolis Colts dropping 1. Their offense just can't seem to get it together, and I believe I've read a report about them shutting down T.Y. Hilton for the rest of the year. And as goes the Browns, so do the Colts. They are done. They're cooked. At number 30, we have the New York Giants gaining a spot, which is nice. They played their best game of the year in a loss against the Philadelphia Eagles. Their defense played well at times, which was nice. Their offense probably had their most complete game of the year, which is a good improvement, but it's a little bit too late. And at 29, we have the Texans dropping 2 spots from last week. They're just one of those teams that the injury bug didn't just hurt them, the injury bug killed them. And they're projected to have a 5th round top 5 pick, which would go to the Cleveland Browns, which should make this upcoming draft very interesting indeed. At number 28, we have the Chicago Bears gaining 1 spot after an okay performance against the Lions. Mitch Trubisky showing some improvement, but he's still making the crucial mistakes that have made him struggle so badly this year. Then at number 27, we have the Jets, who put up a decent fight against the Saints, but their offense was just terrible. The Jets defense really saved the day. They moved down 2 spots to number 27. Without McCown, I don't see the Jets managing anything else but a top 5 pick, or top 10 pick, I mean. At number 26, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers gaining 2 spots. Just an instant thought about them. They competed well. Jameis Winston had his best game of the year against the Falcons. Some mistakes late in the game. A Falcon defender laying on a receiver for an extra 4 or 5 seconds. The referee tripping. The result could have been different, but it wasn't. And at number 25, we have the Arizona Cardinals dropping 2 spots. What seemed like such a glimmer of hope to at least have a more consistent season kind of fizzled out. And they are going the way of the doodle bird. I think their season's beyond over. Not just playoff wise, but I think it's time for them to just mail it in. At number 24, we have the ever streaky San Francisco 49ers rattling off a winning streak I never saw coming for them. Jimmy Garoppolo has been playing really well, especially when you consider their cast of wide receivers. No Pierre Garçon. Their best receiver is Goodwin. Granted, he's playing great football. Kittle's really coming around at tight end, which is nice. And at number 23, we have the Oakland Raiders. Put up a decent fight against the Cowboys, but way too many mental mistakes in that one. Controversial index card ruling, but just mental mistakes just keeps costing this team. At number 22, we have the Cincinnati Bengals coming off a devastating defeat against the Minnesota Vikings, but I'm going to chalk this one up to more of a Minnesota Vikings defense, just doing what that defense does. It is insanely chock full of talent and good. Andy Dalton making some mistakes, or at least the whole offense is making mistakes. Finally, my answers have been prayer. Marvin Lewis and the Bengals are parting ways at the end of the year. This is about 5 years too late, or 5 years overdue, I should say. And at number 23, we have the Broncos, who their defense is starting to show up. Their offense is being a little bit more consistent. They're looking to get a Paxton Lynch at least one more start by the end of the year. So they do have something to look forward to. They have something to fight for, so that's good to see. At number 20, we have the Miami Dolphins. After a good win against the Patriots, they came out and fizzled really badly against the Bills. They struggled really badly. So they only dropped 1 spot because of the teams below them, I think, are just stuck down there. Unless the Dolphins do really bad in the next game, they should be around 20 at the end of the year as well. And at number 19, we have the Green Bay Packers, who, after a okay performance by Aaron Rodgers, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, coming off a return. Not that bad considering he's been gone out for 8-9 weeks. Send him back on IR, so that sinks the Packers down back to 19, mainly because of the quarterback situation. And entering the most controversial section of the power rankings this week, we have the Tennessee Titans at number 18, dropping 4 spots. They are dropping faster than someone's pants after eating a whole bunch of Taco Bell. Now, they've been playing terrible football lately. I credited the 49ers for their win, but the Titans defense just looked so lackluster on that final drive, especially with their playoff hopes still alive. They don't have the motivation. I don't think they have the maturity yet, and I think honestly at this rate they're going to miss the playoffs. And at number 17 we have the Washington Redskins putting up a good fight in their last game. Got the W. Overall, if it wasn't for the injuries, I think this Redskins team would definitely be a wildcard team. But it's the way of the NFL. You have to overcome injuries, and this team's done enough to be about middle of the pack. I struggled with this one as well. At number 16, we have the Buffalo Bills. There's just something about the inconsistency of the offense that unnerves me just a little bit. I like what they have on offense. So Sean McCoy, great running back. Tyrod Taylor, great young quarterback, or not so young, I guess, quarterback you can say. Zay Jones, good wide receiver. Kelvin Benjamin, good. It's just consistency is a major issue. They are fighting for a wild card spot. They have a tough game against New England this week. That doesn't affect their power ranking this week. But if they can pull off a W, they're going to be in great shape to make the playoffs. Then we have the Los Angeles Chargers at number 15, dropping 5 spots. They just, when it mattered most and they needed a win, they just couldn't get it. They did awful. Their defense couldn't stop anybody on the Chiefs. Their offense couldn't keep pace. It was just bad, and I think it might have cost them a playoff spot, to be honest. At number 14 with the Seattle Seahawks, it's sad to see the 12th man stoop so low, but due to so many injuries on the defense, they're having so much trouble stopping anybody, and their offense can only do so much. Russell Wilson, a serious MVP candidate, is trying his darndest to carry that team, and it's just too much for him to carry by himself. And then at number 13, you have the Dallas Cowboys gaining 2 spots. They get Ezekiel Elliott back after a good win Definitely, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, but with Ezekiel Elliott back, they deserve at least a little bit of a jump, especially with how poorly the Chargers and Seahawks have played. Now, with more of the controversial parts of the power rankings, this would definitely have to be it. We have the Kansas City Chiefs gaining 5 spots to number 12, I should say, not gaining 12 spots. That'd be crazy. It's week 16. Well, they had a good game against the Chargers. Their offense looks like it finally got it back together, and their defense, especially Marcus Peters, played great football, and they reclaimed the division and they control their playoff spot. And if they can keep taking control like this, they're going to be a serious threat in the AFC. Next team, the Lions, gaining 1 spot to number 11. I almost had them cracking the top 10, but this team is a team I struggle so badly to place. They're not quite middle of the pack, but they're not quite one of the contenders in my eyes. They're one of those teams that's it's just there to be there. They're inconsistent, but every time you ride them out, they win. But every time you bet on them, they lose. It's just one of those teams, and it's so frustrating. At number 10, we have the Baltimore Ravens cracking up top 10 for, I believe, the first time in a few weeks. They gained 3 spots. Their defense is playing outstanding football, as evidenced by their Pro Bowl players. Their offense looks like it's getting it together. Alex Collins is really picking up speed, or at least momentum. I like it. Joe Flacco's being more consistent. This team probably not gonna threaten too many people in the playoffs, because if they do make it as a 6th seed or 5th seed, facing the Kansas City Chiefs or the Jaguars just spells trouble for them, in my opinion. Then at number 9, you have the Atlanta Falcons getting 2 spots to crack the top 10 for the first time in a while. The reigning NFC champions played a good game against the Bucks. Got a little lucky at the end, but they held on to a 4th quarter lead, which is important in football because you need to have the lead at the end of the 4th quarter. Matt Ryan and the offense still looks like it's struggling. Devontae Freeman, though, just torched the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He is such an amazing young back, and it is truly an honor to watch him play on a week-to-week basis. And let the controversy continue for me, because everyone's moving in the top 8 or 10. Now, the top 8 teams for me are so better, or I meant bar. They set the bar so much higher than the other teams, even from the 9 Falcons or 10 Ravens, that any given week, depending on their performance, they could move up. Because let's say the Saints win 60-3 this next week, you could see them jump up to number one. It's that close between most of these teams. They're probably the most solid teams in football. With that explanation out of the way, the Saints dropped one spot. They struggled badly against the Jets without Josh McCown, and that is a real cause for concern. Alvin Kamara and Ingram both voted for the Pro Bowl. Amazing accomplishment for one team. Then you have the Jacksonville Jaguars at number 7 gaining a spot. They just basically switched. Blake Bortles playing the most consistent, good football he's ever played. And that Jaguars defense is probably the scariest defense I've seen play since the Broncos from a couple years back. Now, don't jump on my back, but at number 6, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers dropping 5 spots as last week's number 1. It wasn't necessarily because of the loss to the Patriots. That was a close game. Honestly, that alone probably would have dropped them to number 2 or 3. But it's the loss of Brown for the last 2 weeks of the season. Yes, they have easy matchups against the Texans and Browns, but without Brown, he's expected back for the playoffs, but it's a partially torn calf. It could re-aggravate. It could get worse. He might not be back for the playoffs, and if that's the issue, then it's just a cause for concern. This team's so riddled with injuries. No Shazier. Hayden's still fighting to get back. But that offensive line, man, that offensive line and Le'Veon Bell, one of the deadliest unit combinations I have ever seen play football. Le'Veon Bell just had his way with the Patriots, but they just couldn't overcome it. And at number 5, we have the Carolina Panthers. I believe it's one of the first times they've been in the top 5 since one of the early weeks. They gained one spot. Cam Newton's back in almost MVP form. I'm not going to say quite MVP form because I don't think his arm's quite there yet. He did carve up the Packers, but he had the benefit of it being the Packers defense, which isn't known to scare too many people. He has a couple of tough matchups coming in, and I believe one more win in the playoffs. So this is a team that could definitely sneak its way to the Super Bowl, or at least the NFC Championship game. Speaking of NFC Championship games, at number 4 we have the Philadelphia Eagles dropping 2 spots despite a good victory, but it was against the Giants and they struggled badly. And granted, I know it's a divisional matchup, but with how injury riddled and bad the Giants have been, it's just sad to see the Eagles struggle so badly. They did get the win though, so they don't drop too much. Like I said, these teams are close, so even a little bobble is going to cost you, just like it did the Steelers and just like it did the Eagles. Now, these two teams right here are probably some of the favorites to go to the NFC Championship game. And you might be wondering, if the Eagles and Vikings are at 4 and 3 respectively, Vikings gaining 1 spot, then who could be number 1 or number 2? You'll see in a second. Now the Vikings, on the other hand, Casey Keenum played great football. He's been playing good football all season. And honestly, that's what this team's always needed, is that quarterback that plays good football, doesn't play insanely amazing football, doesn't have to take over the game, but can if he has to. And I think this Vikings team could very well be Super Bowl contenders. Probably one of my top 4 picks to win the Super Bowl. And this is where probably the most controversial thing I could probably do. I know I've looked at other power rankings that people have done via things like ESPN and NFL, and they do other factors and stuff like that. But this is my personal factor here. The Patriots move up 1 to number 2, and the Rams move up 4 to number 1. And my thinking is this: the Patriots have virtually no pass rush. If they're going to want to have a pass rush for the playoffs, they better hope that they can activate Vincent Valentine off of IR, because otherwise it's going to be pretty non-existent. Unless Eric Lee can step up a little bit more like he did against the Bills in the last game for the Patriots. With Gronkowski back, accumulating, I believe, a career high in the receiving yards, around 168 in the last game, and a 2-point conversion. That was good. But the other receivers do concern me a little bit. Hogan's hampered by injuries. That offensive line's hampered by injuries. The Patriots, basically, if you look at their injury report or who's missed a game at the end of throughout the year, the only unit that's been healthy the whole season is Brady, the quarterback. That's it. That's the only position that's been healthy all year. Tight end would be close, but you have the Martellus Bennett situation, which does technically affect it. But I digress. Rams, I have a few reasons for them being number one. I believe in a head-to-head matchup with any team on this list, after the performances the Rams have put together, with the young coach in Sean McVay, with a system that it's hard to plan for because it hasn't been around for a while. If it's a system like Belichick, you tend to know what he's going to do. But with the Rams, you just don't know. They destroyed the Seahawks. Todd Gurley definitely putting himself into the MVP consideration ring. But I feel like that might be a little disrespectful to Jared Goff and the performances he has pulled off lately. I believe they said Gurley had 17 touchdowns or something like that. If he can finish the season with 23 or 24 touchdowns, I think Gurley stands a good chance of taking home MVP. Aaron Donald in that defense is on a whole nother level. They're on par with the Jaguars and Minnesota Vikings, I believe. But when you mix it with the offense like Sammy Watkins, Robert Woods, Todd Gurley, and Jared Goff, Cooper Kupp, and then something that other teams don't really have, and what really puts the Rams over the top for everyone else here is that special teams, one of the best punters in the league, and one of the best returners in the league in Pharoh Cooper, one of the most underrated special teamers in the league, honestly. Great return guy, sets him up for great field position every time. All three units of football on this team excel tremendously. Every other team struggles maybe a little bit. Let's say the Patriots, obviously the pass rush struggles. With the Vikings, I'm not going to say it struggles so much, but you take away the receivers and that running game, I don't really see it beating you. With the Eagles, you have a backup quarterback that you can probably expose a little bit. If you can stop the running game, you should be able to limit what Nick Foles can do and so forth like that. But to me, you can still do that with the Rams, but they're the most fitting of the title of a pick your poison kind of team. And honestly, to me, they're the top dog in the NFL right now. It could change next week depending on how they perform, but they may not be the 1 seed right now or the 2 seed, but they're definitely probably my Super Bowl representative for the NFC. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.